Long ago, on a wild, rugged coast, a man dragged a woman to the top of a towering sea cliff. I don't know what she had done, but without a moment's hesitation, the man threw her off the edge and she fell far down to the rocks below. Many years later, a fisherman rowed his small boat to a sheltered cove. He was an unlucky man. He never really seemed to catch much, and this is why he had come to this cove. People swore that some evil presence lingered there, and no other fisherman ever went near. So our fisherman, he thought that maybe lots of big fish were hiding there. And besides, he didn't really believe in evil spirits. The sea was flat like a sheet of glass as he dropped his line over the side of the boat and he watched it sink into the depths. And only a minute went by when the line sharply tugged and the fisherman pulled it up. And he almost had it in the boat when he slipped backwards and he smacked his head. Ugh. And he sat up and looked over to what he caught, and he saw tangled up at the end of his line a human skeleton. And then that skeleton slowly lifted its head. The fisherman screamed, and with one of his oars he hit the skeleton off the boat, and then he started to row like a demon away from the cove. But he wasn't thinking straight, and the line was still attached to the back of the boat, and the skeleton was still tangled up in that line, being towed behind the whole way back to the fisherman's beach. When they got back to that beach, the fisherman jumped out of his boat, sprinted up the hill to his house, locked the door, and got into his bed with his sheets wrapped tightly around him. And then there was a scratch at the door. The skeleton had followed him up, and with its bony finger, it unpicked the lock and the door swung open. And then, still tangled up in that fishing line, it walked right over to the fisherman and collapsed in a heap on the floor. And the fisherman looked at the skeleton, and it looked so sad. He got out of bed, and he gently untangled the skeleton. And when he was finished, he gave it a hug. And then he said, "Look, I'm tired. I need to go back to bed, but you can stay here if you want to." And as soon as the fisherman started to dream, I don't know what about, a single tear rolled down his cheek, and the skeleton leant forward and caught that tear. And then it stood up, went over to a table, and found a knife. It came back over to the fisherman, pulled down his sheets, ripped through his shirt, and with that knife, it took out the fisherman's heart. And as it held that heart, all of its flesh started to return. Its legs for running free and dancing, hands and arms for carrying and holding things, eyes for watching the sun set at the end of the day and the moon and stars shine at night, and lips for whispering and singing and kissing. It wasn't a skeleton standing there any longer. There was a beautiful woman. And she put the heart back into the fisherman's chest, where it belonged, and he woke up as she climbed into the bed next to him. And it wasn't long after that she was tangled up again, but this time in a different way. On the following morning, the fisherman asked the woman whether she'd like to stay, and she said yes. In fact, she never left. And from that point onwards, the fisherman was never hungry again, because he wasn't scared to go fishing where all the big fish were hiding, in that cove where he had found the skeleton woman.